Hello, my name is Melissa Valley, and today I'm going to share with you a point that I walked through in the past year, and it has changed my life 360, and it has changed the way that I view my life and the life of those around me. Now, this is a really big point, so I will not be able to cover it within the 5 minutes of video. So, because of that, I will be sharing a series of vlogs and a series of videos in which I will be breaking down this whole process into, and by the end, you'll be able to see it all come together like a puzzle. But first, have you ever wondered what your relationship is to the alphabet? Like all 26 letters of them? I met someone once who had a bad relationship with the letter N, and that's because this person did not know and could not say no to people. It was really hard for this person to do so. We don't really think much about letters and our relationship to them. I mean, we know it's something we learn in the first years of our lives, and then we use them, and they're kind of in the words that we speak. But your actual relationship, how you hold them close to you, that relationship, that intimate relationship you have with them, probably not, right?
You see, words are composed of these letters, and when we have a negative relationship or experience with them, we tend to attach those experiences to the definition of these symbols, which we pay little attention to. And over time, we build resistance, coping mechanisms, and avoidance to them.
You see, that was my case as well. I would have never figured it out in a million years if it wasn't for this one of a kind technology that I use to support my daughter to learn vocabulary. It all started when my daughter was having a hard time learning words that started with the letter W. Any other word she would learn within a week. She would have it down a week or less, she would have it down and she would learn it, and then we would move on. But yet, any word that started with the letter W, she would have a really hard time. Sometimes it would take a month, sometimes even 2 months, just to grasp and learn this letter or this word. How could this happen? She was getting everything else right. What was so important about these words? Why were they so hard to learn for her? With no insight of where to even begin, I reached out to a friend who's also part of this amazing community and also uses this one of a kind technology. And I just wanted to run it by him and see if he had a different perspective that he could share with me. By the way, I will share his information down below because he has amazing insights, especially on education, and you must follow. It's amazing. Anywho, I wanted to see if he could give me a different perspective. I wanted to see if there was something I was missing. I mean, what was I doing so wrong that I couldn't support my daughter effectively to learn words that started with the letter W?
In this brief conversation, he shared with me very insightful information. After running through the technical aspects of using this technology, dotting the I's and crossing the T's, and then he says to me, "You know, this week I read an article that talked about how people usually relate the letter W to women, specifically the breast and the nurturing of the mother." And just like that, a door opened within my mind, information began to rush in, and memories began to flow. It was the most insightful sentence I had ever heard. What does it all mean? What were the memories? Everything was clear right in front of me, and I finally saw this huge obstacle looking at me. And what was even more clear was that I was teaching my daughter to have the same obstacles. I began to put all the pieces together, and finally, the whole thing was looking right at me.
My relationship to the word woman was disastrous. It was horrible. Okay. It was nothing of what I actually thought and made myself believe for all of these years.
And so the journey began. I started breaking my life down from the very core. And to do that, I had to go back to the basics, the beginning.
What was my primary relationship to the word woman? How did it affect me? And how has it so far in my life impacted and shaped my life? Hmm. How can I relate to all of this? So, I use this one of a kind technology to redefine all the words that were related to and had to and were even in close proximity to the word woman.
So I began to look into my relationship with my mother and her relationship with her mother and my grandmother's relationship with her mother, as well as their relationship with men.
You see, they were my first educators, and I watched them and absorbed everything over and over again. Every mannerism, every way of behaving, every acting, of avoiding, everything they did, I absorbed. All three of them were divorced, they were single, and they had a very negative relationship with men. This is not to say that the beautiful women who have shaped my life are bad, or that, oh my God, how horrible their teachings were. This is just what was played out. This is just how they lived their lives, and subconsciously, without knowing, they were passing it down. So as I grew up, I stored within my hard drive what a woman was based on their teachings and what I was absorbing every day and all day. And I will discuss the outer environment contributions that also shaped my life as a woman in blocks to come. This is only the beginning, but we're starting at the very core of how I walk this process. There's a coping mechanism that is created within us as a safety trigger so we don't have to experience pain, suffering, to avoid feeling things that don't make us feel good? Or is it just that we don't understand and comprehend the information that is being thrown at us? So, in understanding what these women in my life had lived, the consequences that they had created from this, I began to use all this to be able to look into my life and see where I had been applying those things and where I had been creating consequences in my life. And now I was able to see where I had been applying them and where in which of my experiences this played out in, as from the point of women and also to their relationship to men. And there it was. It all became very clear. I had one divorce under my belt. I was really intimidated by men, and my relationship to the word nurture or nurturing was of disgust, because all I thought was that women who were nurturing were actually just weak women. Well, then I asked myself, what do you mean those women are weak? Oh, I see. I see women who are nurturing as being weak. But wait a minute. I am a woman. So therefore, I see myself as being weak. I defined being a woman as being weak, as being worthless, as being submissive, uh, creatures who would be manipulated and submissive to men because they couldn't really stand up for themselves. They had to ask for permission. It took a lot of self honesty to come up with these points within me, because a lot of the times we'll get stuck in the oh no, I don't think that, oh no, I don't have those kind of thoughts. But if we're having those thoughts about other women and we're judging them and we're defining them as that, but you are still a woman, that means that you're either avoiding being that because you're still rejecting it, then it's still within you. And so I had to really walk the point of self honesty using amazing tools, because without those tools, I would have never gotten to this self honesty. I would have to myself midway through. And it's so easy to go down the rabbit hole. It's so easy to lie to yourself. It's so easy to trap yourself in your feelings because you want to be a good person. So you tell yourself these lies. But the real, real goodness of it all, of walking through these points and saying to yourself, oh my God, like I really think this about myself, is that you can actually process them and walk through them and then go to the other side instead of avoiding them. And I had to really use these tools because otherwise I would have gotten stuck in the victim personality where it's like, poor me, and or the opposite of that, which is one that I love, which was the tough woman. Like, you're not going to tell me who I am. And so now, after walking all, all that self honesty, I'm faced with things I have to process, realize, understand. And obviously, this took time. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, it has been a year since I've been walking this point, and I'm sure that there's still other things that I still have to go through, but the main core things I'm sharing with you. And the coolest thing about it, the most amazing reward, if you call it, was that after I walked this process, after I was able to really pinpoint all of this, my daughter suddenly started to be able to learn all the words that started with the letter W effortlessly and easy. And it was like any other word that, same process and so forth, but it wasn't taking a month and 2 months for her to process. It was now like any other regular word. She was processing it at the same time and so forth.
Imagine the impact that these symbols called letters, that then build the words that you use to express yourself, have on the way you learn, carry yourself, behave, respond to things in your everyday life.
And with all this, it really makes you think about all the words you have learned throughout your life and your relationship to them, and what emotions, feelings, attachments you have to all of them. All of this self realization only with the point of women. Just that one word opened up so many other things, so many branches that came up of that, because that is the key is that you have this one word, but then over time so much more accumulates and attaches itself to it. And so because of that, there's so many more blogs and videos I have coming up. Stay tuned because this is just getting started.